makes me a witch. But that's like like people with different physical characteristics, whenever it feels like the odds have been statistically low, then we want to attach a huge amount of importance to that.
Sorry, no, but how many teeth? Is it 32? Is it 32 teeth normally? Or come on, Marcus, you do numbers.
4 times 8 or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm wary to say this on the radio because I don't want to be experimented on like an X-Man.
Well, Marcus is also worried. He was willing to say 4 times 8, but he wouldn't say.
Well, the answer is, I know. Yeah, there's a true mathematician on the
pure
panel.
Mathematician.
Like,
that number of order 1.
Is it? Oh, I can't remember.
Just 2 more.
Okay.
2 more teeth.
2 more.
2 more teeth.
It's confusing.
Probably burned at the stake.
These are my favourite moments because Brian doesn't know how to react to kind of dental remarks. It's like, dental revelations always throw. Does not compute. 34 teeth. I do not understand this thing called love.
I was just moving the discussion back onto the subject. I wanted to say this idea of probabilities is inherently confusing. So, for example, toss a coin, it comes up heads, and toss it again, it comes up heads, again, it comes up heads. Most people would then be likely to say, well, surely if I toss it again, it's going to come up tails, isn't it? Because I've tossed it like 3 heads. And so analysing even very simple problems, it's a skill, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And people kind of...
You would think, it's not true, of course. If you toss 3 heads, then I toss... well, it depends which question you ask, I suppose.
Well, yeah, because it could have heads on both sides, you see.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You've got to start to question that. If it comes up heads 100 times...
I always have a two-headed... Well, I haven't got one now. Usually when I'm doing this at schools, I have a two-headed coin, just to fool people. So the point is, that your comment there, which is a gambler's fallacy, or a tail must be due, all of that assumes the coin is perfectly balanced, you're not being fiddled, and no one's playing with you, and with massive assumptions. It's not the truth.
There was a very interesting case in Monte Carlo at the casino where black came up 26 times in a row on the roulette wheel, and people started betting more and more, just convinced that red surely has to come up next. But this is just the mistake of independence. There's nothing in the past which means that unless that roulette wheel is actually biased in some way. Maybe they should never have been betting red and they should have been betting black each time.
Our intuition is terrible on this because we can do endless exercises that show that people don't recognise how much things cluster. So, for example, how many times do you have to flip a coin in order to have more than a 50-50 chance of getting 4 in a row, 4 heads or 4 tails? So I'm going to flip the coin till I get 4 in a row. And you only have to do it 11 times for there to be a 50-50 chance of getting 4 heads. And that's completely unintuitive, totally unintuitive. So, we go back to this old thing, which you were saying before, that my intuition is terrible on this stuff. I have to do everything from scratch and do it 3 times and, go and sit on the lav and concentrate and come back again. And that might be the answer. And you think, why? I wouldn't have to do that if this was an algebraic problem or something like that. And I think probability is something different. It doesn't exist. We made it up. So no wonder we find it difficult to deal with because it's fictitious.
But it works very well.
It works very well. But I prefer to.
That's why casinos are rich and we're poor.
Exactly, and we know how things will work if it's a proper coin. But I prefer to refer to it as Goddess Fortuna. I think is how I like to think about it.
Ooh. That's a real Ocado version of Lady Luck.
That's interesting, though, because it's quite a provocative statement. Probability does not exist.
Well, I think the perfect example, and David's said this one to me before, if you roll a dice and I cover the dice, it's already landed, it's showing a 6, but you don't know what it is. So for probability for you is this 1 in 6 that it's on 6. But for me, I've got complete information. I can see it's a 6. And so what is this number, this 1 over 6, the probability that we're assigning to it, is different according to a different perspective.
Yeah, if I flip a coin and cover it up, what's your probability this is heads? And what's your probability this is heads?
50-50.
50-50, and you're wrong, you lost. So that's why mine is different. Now, what that probability is, it's nothing to do with chance anymore. This is what's called epistemic uncertainty. It's an expression of your lack of knowledge, and that depends on the observer. It's an expression of your relationship between you, an observer, and the world. It's not a property of the coin anymore. And you could say that actually that holds to all probabilities.
It goes back to something you said right at the start, actually, about feeling that there is randomness, that there is...
Yes.
And you said that feeling that there really is chance in life is important.
Yeah, I think it's important to feel like there are things that are likely to happen, but they might never happen. So, like, I can see you getting enraged at this, but even though it feels very, very probable that something might happen, that's not necessarily going to be the case. There's no way that you could ensure it.
That's kind of hope, isn't it? You know, well, I suppose our own death is one example. It's something that's definitely going to happen, but we keep hoping that it's not going to happen.
Not quite yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, for a lot of my life, I didn't really feel like I could die. Like, I didn't feel like a thing that was me. For you guys, it's fine, but for me, it felt wrong. And now I'm sort of slowly reconciling that could be a thing, but it's very hard to believe.
Yeah. You know, if I was flipping a coin, I was going to win some money, or something good was going to happen if it came up a certain way. You may think, oh, this is pure chance, there's nothing I can do, it's just play of luck or whatever. But you are emotionally engaged always. You know, you cannot, I think, stop feeling that engaging with something you've got no control over at all, and yet you're really interested in what happens. It's part of being human. You know, people have had to live with this, you know, forever, the fact that they cannot predict or control so much of what's in their life.
I mean, it's very hard to be detached. Like, I have an energy provider that every month it asks me to spin a wheel of fortune to see whether I get my energy off that month. And I know that the wheel is rigged and it's never going to happen. But every time I go to do that wheel of fortune, I'm like, maybe because he lives for me will be easier this month. But that's why I don't like playing games where I know it's just about the numbers and things outside my control. Like, I'd like playing poker because I feel like I can bluff in poker, not because I can wish the cards into my hand.
Yeah, but I think there are some...
By the way, if you're an energy provider, actually the way they generate energy is by getting loads of individuals just to spin a wheel. So they don't even realise that they're part of the whole scam. Sorry, Marcus.
No, I think in games where there is chance involved, you can still give yourself an edge if you understand what the chances are. So for something like Monopoly, you know, that's a game where you're just throwing dice. But actually, if you analyse the dice, the most likely throw of 2 dice is 7. 6, 7, and 8 are very likely. 2 and 12 aren't. So how can you use that? Well, actually, the most visited square on the Monopoly board is the jail square. So actually, people visit jail 3 times more likely than any other square. You can't buy jail, but after jail, they're more likely to throw 6, 7, or 8, which gets them into the orange region of property. So if you buy that property, the chance is that other people are going to be landing on it, and you're going to cash in and win the game.
Oh my God.
There you go.
That's incredible.
So just to analyse that a bit, so the mid-dice range is because there are more ways of the dice
you can get a
adding up
7
to
in
those
a 1 and a 6, a 2 and a 5, a 3 and a 4, a 4 and a 3, and so on. But, you know, to get 12, you've got to get 2 6s. So there's only one way out of 36 ways the dice could land. So that kind of knowledge is really helpful in playing games, because it gives you kind of edge over your
Over your family at Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what is
my family never play games with me anymore because...
I mean, do you think there is a useful way to be more mathematically consistent in the way that we travel through the world without at the same time removing too much of the joy of the world? To look at certain problems of our existence and go, do you know what, this one, I can start working out the probability and the chance and, you know, all of these different ideas, and this one is best to left to the illusion, perhaps the illusion of not being in a deterministic universe.
See, I like it, right? So it takes away, for me, let's say that you say, should I fly from London to Glasgow, or should I get the train, or should I take a car? And maybe you don't like flying very much, or maybe you don't like... But so I find it removes all responsibility from me. I just say, what is the probability, based on the data, that I successfully make it from London to Glasgow, whatever it is, by these 3 modes of transport, and I take the one that the data tells me to take. And it just removes all responsibility and emotional crap from my decision making.
Yeah, but you own a helicopter.
So I like it. Which is the most dangerous. I don't own a helicopter. It's probably the most dangerous way to get it. Or a motorbike, maybe.
I think, you know, it's impossible for individuals to be rational, because what about the joy? What
Most
about excitement?
individuals.
What about fun and all those things? Quite difficult to put numbers on. But I would like my society to be rational and consistent and work out magnitudes and work out risks, and insurance companies and things like that to be based on a real basis so that they're going to remain solvent. So I think that there's a difference between an individual and organizations, which really should, I think, try to get a really good grasp on risks and magnitude and expected gains and losses.
Are you saying that public policy should be evidence-based?
Oh, sure. No. Oh, I know. I know it's a hopeless ambition, but...
I like your crazy dreamer moments, Brian. And so at the end of this, how do you feel about things like your good fortune or luck? Are you someone who views yourself, where good luck, bad luck, where do you find yourself?
I feel like I'm going to keep trying to wrangle luck, trying to massage the situation to get myself the best possible outcome, because even though life is random and chaotic and maybe nothing is predictable, there are some things that I think I can predict with absolute certainty. I predict, and you have to go with me on this, that sometime in the next 10 seconds, there will be an absolutely thunderous applause break from everyone in the room. An absolutely thunderous applause break.
And obviously we
You are a witch.
You are a witch.
Oh my gosh.
Got there first.
We've also asked our audience a question, and the question is, who do you think is the luckiest person in the world and why? Brian?
Well, this says Robin Ince for getting to work with Professor Brian Cox.
No, it doesn't. Do you know what? I actually predicted, I knew that was going to happen. Oh, imagine what it's like to sit next to Brian Cox. Yeah, imagine what it's like to sit next to something made out of coat hangers with a wig that's just pointing at a thing. Anyway, so...
I got one of those as well, Brian Cox, because he gets to work with Robin, but they're all in the same handwriting.
Yeah. I don't know why you do it, Brian, but it's very sweet.
Isn't that your handwriting? Yeah, Robin.
Okay.
Myself, as in my wife's D-Ream, it didn't get better.
Okay, this is me, because you are about to read, so this is me, you are about to read my name out and pronounce it correctly.
Oh, no, why did we give that one to him?
This is okay. Merrill Goulbourne. Is that correct? Merrill? Close enough.
Which is a lovely way of saying no.
Well, how should I have said it? Merrill Goulbourne. Okay.
The last person to get into this show, Brian Cox, because he gets to sit next to Robin Ince. Lucky Brian Cox sitting next to Robin Ince. I always think Brian Cox must feel so happy to always be working with Robin Ince.
Thank you to our panel, David Spiegeldalter, Sophie Duker and Marcus de Sortoy. Next week, we'll discover if Robin and I are likely to be replaced in the foreseeable future by an artificial intelligence.
You see, I think it's going to be very easy to replace Brian because he's reasonably linear, and as long as they just put in some scientific information, whereas I think my overly lengthy, frequently incomprehensible questions will be far harder for artificial intelligence to regenerate. So you've made a fool of yourself by merely being a man of simple and deep understanding, and I am chaos.
Yeah.
Hear me roar.
Hi, chaos. Goodbye.
Naughty monkey in the infinite monkey cage. Without your trousers in the infinite monkey cage. Turn out nice again.
The Infinite Monkey Cage was presented by Brian Cox and Robin Ince. The executive producer is Alexandra Feacham, and it's a BBC Studios production. And if you can't wait till next week, all episodes are available now on BBC Sounds.
This is the Doctor. I'm back.
Nice to meet you, skinny man.
That's Donna.